right side to the 10 to the 5. Touchdown! 6. Going to the hoop. Puts it up. Puts it in. A fantastic play.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to Magnolia Fields podcast from the Richard Schwartz and Associates Studios. I'm Tanner Marlar, as always, alongside Cody Blaszczak. It's crossover season, Cody. We're in the middle of playoff football. We got some really important basketball being played here early in the season. Let's go ahead and dive in, starting with the passing of the torch. We talked about it last week in Mississippi High School women's basketball. Meg Moore over at Tisch County just picked up the offer from Ole Miss, has an offer pretty much in the pocket from Mississippi State. Large Division I interest as a freshman.
And as she should. Yeah,
On the other side,
you talk about the passing of the torch. It happened last night.
It happened. On the other side, of course, Ingomar women's team won a lot of hardware in that division over the years. They've got Macy Pfeiffer, the Middle Tennessee State commit. Last night, there was quite the important basketball game over in Tishomingo County. You want to know who won that one?
The Braves.
The Lady Braves won that one. Tishomingo County takes it 65-48, and not just by a couple points. I mean, this was a comfortable win for Tisch.
It just dominated the entire game, essentially.
Yeah,
You said it. This Tisch County girls team is going to be good. They are good.
They are.
Ingomar is a great team. They've got, obviously, Macy Pfeiffer. They have some other pieces on that team as well. But yeah, this will be the team to watch for the next 4 years. Yeah, especially because Meg Moore is in fact a freshman.
You look at the scores for Ingomar early on in the season. Beat Marshall Academy 68-28, West Union 73-18. Then take the loss to Tisch County. I don't think anybody in 4A is stopping Tisch County this year potentially. Meg Moore is going ring chasing with the rest of the Lady Braves, and I'm excited to see it.
And she probably will for the next 4 years.
Probably so.
There's a real chance that her entire hand essentially will have hardware by the end of her high school career.
She is fun to watch, and the rest of that Tishomingo County girls team is too. I think it's some of the most exciting basketball played in the state, especially on the women's side of things. Flipping to the boys' side. You talked about Ingomar's boys team. They return essentially everybody. Yeah, they had a player move to Holly Springs, whatever. They get almost everybody back.
I will say that the roster does not reflect that.
No.
The Holly Springs transfer. So we apologize for that, but what we could find, it's everyone back.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, Ingomar boys, Ingomar girls, they're both good. It didn't go the girls' way last night, but it did in fact go the boys' way. It was like a 48-point win.
Yeah. Yeah, so big win for Ingomar's boys, a big loss for Ingomar's girls. You got to think, that one stings a little bit as they're still going to go on and play some tough competition, but that one's got to burn. That one's got to burn.
Good to get it. Good to get that burn early in the season. Adjustments, I'm not too concerned about them, but I think it's better to take a loss early on instead of late into the season.
Agreed. Talk a little bit, too, still sticking with the theme of last week, or at least what we previewed in the last episode. We just came from Tupelo and Starkville, 7A regular season finale for both teams. First half was Starkville. I was more impressed with Starkville in that first half than I was Tupelo.
I think that first half might have been one of, if not the best halves of football we've seen this year.
Yeah, gridlocked, just both teams playing hard. Both running backs played really well. Both running backs played well all game. Braylon Jenkins played really well for Starkville all night. I think the big playability of J.J. Hill down the stretch really stretched that lead out for Tupelo in that second half. And to be fair, it was closer than a lot of people thought it would be. Yes, Starkville gets the late touchdown to cut it to 15. There are a lot of plays in that game, and you and I talked about it on our way out of the stadium that, the ball bounces just a different direction, and it's a much different football game.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, at least, that we mentioned is I think Tupelo might have the upper hand on your skill players and everything. Yeah. Quarterback, running back, all of that stuff, wide receivers. And they've got a really solid...
DBs especially.
But I think I really think if you give Starkville Tupelo's offensive line, it might be the same score, except it's Starkville 29, Tupelo 14.
I don't know if it's that.
It might be a little closer.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a gap, but I agree. I think the offensive line of Tupelo made a huge difference. Gillen had a lot of time in the pocket. Yeah, he made one mistake on the rollout pass through the pick, but only his 4th interception on the season. You trust your quarterback in those moments. And I personally was really impressed with how well he was out in open space.
Just a crafty kid.
Yeah,
I mean,
made a lot more plays with his legs than I thought he would.
Yeah, he's a smart quarterback at the bare minimum. This is a Tupelo team that should make it very far in the playoffs. As we mentioned last week, they have a history of choking in the playoffs. We'll see if they do that. They had a perfect season, 10-0. They get Horn Lake Friday. So, I mean, obviously some room for improvement. To me, though, this is a tough team to stop.
It is. It absolutely is. And this Tupelo team, there's a reason why most have them picked to win North Half, go play for a state title.
And they should. I mean, on paper, they should do exactly that.
I agree. On paper, they 100% should. But if you look at on paper last season, they probably should have done it last year too.
I agree.
So we'll see. I hope they do make it. I hope they play for a state title because I think J.J. Hill, Noah Gillen, and company deserve to. Think the body of work up to this point is good enough, and obviously haven't lost a football game. Very much good enough to carry them to a state championship. They just got to go do it.
A couple of seniors you'd like to see win it, like you said, Gillen, one of them, the DB, and Mason Dunn, the Ole Miss commit. I mean, there are a handful of guys that it feels like they really deserve one considering how last year went. Yeah. To me, Tupelo is the team that will make it to the state championship out of the North. Will they? We'll find out in a couple of weeks.
We will. Let's go ahead and dive into the upcoming playoff matchups from this week. We got a lot to cover. So we're going to go ahead and start with 1A, our 1A playoff bracket. Now, this 1A bracket here you see on your screen, Baldwyn just tranced Smithfield last week. I mean, just dominated.
You look at most of the first round in 1A,
and it's domination.
Very similar.
Yeah, it is. Same with Faulkner and Potts Camp. I think that could be a really good game. I just don't know if Faulkner's got someone that can come up and just put a stopper on Dylan Johnson. I think he's one of the most dynamic players in 1A, the Baldwyn quarterback. I'm excited to see what they can do.
One of might be the most.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw him early in the season, and you just get better as the season goes on.
I would like to see him now. In that game against Boonville, he started cramping up a little bit. I would like to see him play 4 quarters now under that offense and see what they can do.
Also, if I recall, a guy that not only threw a touchdown, I believe rushed for one and also had a pick.
Yeah.
I mean, literally just does it all.
Yeah, do it all man for the Bearcats, for sure. Faulkner, a lot of experience on this roster. They get a big playoff win. I think one of their first in program history, right? Or in a long time at least, over Potts Camp there. I believe they put up 45 in that one. I've got the Bearcats there.
Yeah, I think we're both on the same page.
Next one, Vardaman and Coffeyville. Again, you see there on your screen, we said Vardaman was going to roll through the regular season. They did just that. I think they're going to roll through into a deep playoff run. I think Vardaman handles Coffeyville.
I think these first couple of rounds, I mean, it's something to watch, but when you get into the third round in 1A, I think that Baldwyn, what we expect to be Baldwyn and Vardaman, that's something to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and we actually were talking about that before the show. Potential game of the week.
Yeah, well, you look at some of these matchups and everything, and it's not that we're not keeping our eye on it, but you've got to keep your eye on Baldwyn and Vardaman when we get to the third round, if that is how it plays out.
It is.
I mean, it's a must see.
Well, we were talking, like I said, we were talking about that potentially being game of the week material, and it is every bit of it. The athleticism for Baldwyn, the consistency, and the just sheer domination out of Vardaman this season has been really fun to watch. But yeah, I've got Vardaman against Coffeyville 7 days out of the week, 8 days of the week.
As I said, I think we're expecting Baldwyn and Vardaman. That's the one to watch.
Agreed. That's your 1A playoff bracket coming up. We're going to get into 2A. We're going to get a little bit of the South Side flavor and finish out this 1A bracket here in just a moment, right after a break from the Richard Schwartz and Associates studios in the Magnolia Fields podcast. Stay with us.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you know who to call. Call me. Remember, one call, that's all.
Welcome to the Richard Schwartz and Associates Magnolia Field Studios. One call, that's all.
Back here from the Richard Schwartz and Associates Studios, the Magnolia Fields podcast, Tanner Marlar, Cody Blaszczak. Finishing out this 1A bracket, Cody, we said that Baldwyn-Vardaman matchup on the top side is one we've got our eye on. How about this one? Strayhorn took their licks during the regular season, kept on ticking, and now firmly in round 2 with a matchup against West Lowndes.
A pretty solid win in the first round. Ashland 35-0 was the final of that one.
And we talked about that Strayhorn defense being one of the better units in 1A. They showed it in that round 1 matchup.
They're going to have to show it again through the rest of the playoffs. The season is going to come to a close quickly if they don't show up.
That they are. I've got Strayhorn over West Lowndes. Give them to me. Give them to me.
I think that's fair. I think the next one is more. The next matchup is way more intriguing, though.
I do too. Myrtle and Biggersville. You see there on your screen, obviously. Myrtle's coming off of a bye.
It's weird. It's weird. I don't know if I like it. I really don't. Like, obviously, the advantage, you got some fresh legs, but just a bye in the playoffs, when you look at every single other team, it feels like it gets a team like Biggersville up, like we're going to get them sleeping.
It does. It does. I mean, that's the thing. If you're Myrtle, but you've had 2 weeks to watch film. You probably sent a lot of your guys and a lot of your coaching staff to watch that Biggersville-Okolona game last Friday.
Yeah, probably. And I don't know. It's just intriguing to me. This feels like a game that can and could and might go down to the wire.
Yeah, it could be very, very, very close. Very close. And I'm excited. I am, however, going to take Myrtle.
I think I'm going to take Myrtle too, and I think that presents an interesting matchup in the third round if it is Myrtle and Strayhorn, especially because you look at it and, like you said, Myrtle comes off of a bye where Strayhorn's pushing at least 2 games back-to-back. I don't know when they had their last bye of the season, so it could be maybe 3, 4, 5 games in a row that they'll be playing coming into this one where it's only one for Myrtle. I think it makes things very interesting, especially for Myrtle when you look at 1A as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. So you're saying that Myrtle-Strayhorn matchup probably could be another one to keep our eye on as we get into that third round, and I agree. I want to point out, obviously you're only seeing the north half matchups here. Our coverage area, except for a few schools, only ranges in the north half, so that's why you see that on your screen. On into 2A. Talking some 2A playoffs. Walnut and Union. Union took that matchup over the higher-seeded Walnut. They're going to go on and face LaFleur County. I'm glad Union won that first round. I am. I don't see them making it terribly far.
I don't see them making it terribly far either, but what I think is interesting is the lower seeds in both of those games.
One, yeah.
So
you're still going to get a low seed in round 3. That's what's interesting to me. No matter how this shakes out, you'll get a low seed in round 3, which is fun. Interesting for sure.
Interesting is the right word. And yeah, I think that's what makes this game, in a sense, fun. Is I don't really think either teams were expected to come out of it.
No, I don't either. I mean, on paper, certainly not. Now, I look at that Walnut team. They were pretty solid throughout the year. Don't quite have the athletes that Union does. Union's got some better athletes, some very important positions, and I think that's what won them that game. Now, on to the bottom side of that, Philly and Northside. Talk about athletes. Philly is loaded with them.
Philly is a team that they just need help around a Cameron Bowler.
Well, and I think they've got it in divisional play. We watched them play up against Choctaw Central. They held their own. Don't get me wrong. Choctaw Central winds up winning that game. They've got some real athletes across the field. They really do.
They just got to find a way to put together full games, because when we have seen them, it's not a full game. We're going to have a really good first and third quarter, or a really good second and fourth quarter. It's never a full game with them. And if they can do that, especially here in division play and in 2A where you're not playing up, I think that gives them an advantage. You just have to figure out how to put it all together because we've seen some really special quarters and plays out of these teams. It's just never has been over a full entire game.
Yeah, I agree. I've got Philly against Northside. That's going to set up a Philly-Union matchup in round 3. Interesting.
I hate to say it when we get to the next part of the bracket, though. I'm not sure it matters at all which teams win these games.
Maybe not. And with that being said, we're going to swap to the bottom side of this north half bracket. You
that
see
right there at the bottom.
Yeah, at the bottom. Let's get into Charleston Sebastopol first. Sebastopol's got a great, really dynamic backfield. Charleston beats MS Palmer. Again, the 2 higher seeds there. That's a good matchup for Sebastopol, I think. Could be a really good game.
It could be. I'm going to roll with Charleston, but again, I'm not sure it matters much after that.
That's fair, because next up, Calhoun City and Upora.
Yeah, you just look at Calhoun City, they're a wrecking ball. I just feel like, I'm not sure they will, but I feel like they have the ability to run through every single team, just run to the state championship.
Potentially. I think
such a good team.
I think they beat Upora. I don't see them having a problem with Charleston or Sebastopol. Really until north half, I don't think Calhoun City is going to be challenged all that much.
Who are they going to be challenged in the north half?
I think when you get to the top side of that, there's some bad blood between them and Union. Union won that game last season. Philly's not going to let anybody dog walk them.
I think you're right, but like I said, I'm not sure Philadelphia, unless they put a full game together, I'm not sure that they can go toe to toe with Calhoun City.
No better time to do it than in the north half.
That's why it's fun.
It is. We've got a few, I believe, in 2A in the south, and they're playing each other. Raleigh and Scott Central matching up with each other in the second round, both in our coverage area. Raleigh got the win over Wilkinson County, Scott Central over Collins. We don't know a lot about these teams, going to put it bluntly. We haven't been able to watch a lot of them this year, but I'm going to go Scott Central.
Awesome, because I'm going Raleigh.
Well, there we go. Now we've got our picks. On into 3A, and this is where things really get dicey. Boonville, Roosevelt. I think Roosevelt takes that one. Boonville won a really, really rough division. They really did. A really rough division. Choctaw County thumped Mantachi. Just thumped them. And that sets up a matchup that we're really excited for. Choctaw County and Winona.
You talk about the Mac South PJ. We will be back and forth.
If we could go back and forth, we would. Because, oh, my goodness.
Yeah, this almost feels like the state championship.
It feels like it's got that vibe to it for 3A, doesn't it?
I believe that whoever wins this game will advance to the state championship. However, they probably will end up running into Noxubee County with Mario Taylor
in the state championship game.
Yes, but whoever wins this, I feel out of the north half will make it to the state championship.
Potentially. There's a sleeper we'll get into here in a moment. I've got Choctaw County in that one. I think they beat Winona this year.
You had Winona last week.
I know, but I've done some reassessing.
I'm sticking with Choctaw County.
I've done some reassessing. I think Choctaw County beats them this year. On into the bottom side of this North Half 3A matchup. Here's my sleeper. Humphreys County. They win the division that Winona is in, right? Win it outright. They play East Webster. I think East Webster's going to put up a really good fight. You and I went as fans to watch East Webster and Belmont, who they absolutely throttled last week. But Humphreys County, man, to come out of a division like that, win the 1 seed, that's big. That's big. Now, they've had some close calls, but that tells me they've got the team that can put it together.
It also, with them being that 1 seed, it delays when you will meet Choctaw County.
It does.
Which could be in your benefit.
It could.
So, props to them for winning that. They got a couple of rounds to win before they would face Choctaw County. I think they would face them
north half?
In the north half. Yeah, that's correct.
Choctaw County or Winona in the north half, yeah.
It would be.
And I think that's where one of these teams is headed. I don't think Independence or Aberdeen. I don't know if Independence or Aberdeen beats East Webster. I really don't think they beat Humphreys County. I think that East Webster-Humphreys County matchup is closer than a lot of people think, but I think Humphreys County takes it.
I think it's really fair at this point in time, at least, to say the north half will be either Choctaw County or Winona facing off against Humphreys County.
Could be. Could be. It would take quite the run from East Webster.
It would.
And I love watching them. I hope they do it. But we saw what happened when they played Choctaw County earlier in the season. Wasn't a good result.
They got some athletes, though.
Independence and Aberdeen, I got Independence winning that matchup. We'll talk a little bit after the show. We got a whole segment coming. I'm not sure Aberdeen should even be here right now.
They shouldn't. But we'll let you determine that for your own.
That we will. We're going to take a quick break, come back, finish out some of these brackets. We've got a lot to get into, including our game of the week here on the Magnolia Fields podcast. Stick with us.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you know who to call. Call me. Remember, one call, that's all.
Welcome back to the Magnolia Field Studios, brought to you by Richard Schwartz and Associates. One call, that's all.
Back here from the Richard Schwartz and Associates Studios, jumping straight back into our playoff bracketology on into 4A. We got to roll through these. We got a game of the week to get to. Shannon.
It's a game of the week, too.
It certainly is. Shannon, round one against Leak Central, probably one of the better stories out of this season. They get Kosciuszko in round two. I think Shannon takes it.
I'm going to take Kosciuszko.
You like the young guys.
I do like the young guys. Took the game to Senatobia to overtime, won it in overtime. I like the Whippets.
I'm taking Shannon. I think that offense is just too good, and they're too big and physical on defense.
They probably are, but boy, do I love the youngins on that Kosciuszko
I do love
team.
watching that Kosciuszko team. Houston and West Lauderdale. We talked to a member of the Houston coaching staff at East Webster on Friday night. They take on West Lauderdale. West Lauderdale going to be a strong offensive team, but they let Ripley kind of get on the board. I think this Houston team could really put up some points here.
They can put up points. We've seen the offense. I mean, Dakota Harrell just has a cannon. We've seen what this Houston team can do. It's playoff times. It matters. I think they'll get the job done.
Absolutely. Couple South teams here in 4A to get into, I believe. Yes, and it is just Forest is one of our schools in our coverage area. They take on Lanier this week. Got to stick with the coverage area. I'm going Forest.
Fair enough.
Going Forest. Into 5A. Now, 5A just starting this week. Round one begins. This is your entire north half bracket right here. West Point, Yazoo City. I got West Point in that one. I think there's a really good chance West Point repeats again this year. Home Central and Corinth starting play this week. Give me Home Central. Corinth has struggled since jumping up to 5A.
I'm with you on the West Point thing.
Yeah, with me on both of those. Yeah.
My biggest thing is West Point. I think they'll repeat again. We're trying to fly through things. I think it's as simple as West Point for 5A.
Agreed. Cleveland Central and Pontotoc going to battle it out. I think Pontotoc takes that one. New Hope, what a turnaround for the Trojans. This program has been revived out of the ashes, and I think they get a round one win here and advance into round two, Cody.
I hope they do.
I do too. They're a fun story.
It's a fun. That's why you hope they do.
It's a fun story. Into 6A. Not a lot of 6A schools in our coverage area. Once classifications kind of broke up, they kind of got their numbers halved. Grenada. We love this Grenada team. McCaleb Taylor. They're going to take on Callaway, and then they'll face the winner of Neshoba Central and Lake Cormorant if they beat Callaway, which I think they will. I think Grenada could very well make a play for that 6A state title. I think the game between them and South Panola that just wrapped up about a week ago should have been the 6A state title game.
It should have. Grenada's got some dogs on that team.
They do.
And when it's not going McCaleb Taylor's way,
going Zayon Cottons.
Correct.
And they got a great quarterback in Trusty. I like this Grenada team. Warren Central and Saltillo. Doesn't take a genius here to figure out. I think Warren Central takes that one. South Panola and Ridgeland. I do think South Panola winds up getting the rematch with Grenada in North Half. I think that's where they wind up meeting yet again.
I think they do too, but if it's anything like their first meeting, which was at the end of the season, it's not going to be close.
No. I think Grenada's just got too many athletes on the offensive side.
I agree.
Into 7A, and this is where things get dicey, Cody. Oxford taking on Germantown. Who do you like?
Oxford. I have Oxford going all the way to the state championship.
To the state championship? You think they beat?
Oh, no, excuse me. I'm thinking of Tupelo. I'm thinking of Tupelo.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay.
I have Germantown over Oxford.
Okay. I don't hate that pick, actually. I think that Germantown is in a much better division, which explains their record. Oxford's going to have to get a lot more out of the quarterback position, I think, to really be competitive when they get into this postseason. Give me Germantown as well. And I've got Madison Central over DeSoto Central handily.
As do I. Yeah. Madison Central over DeSoto Central. Then I have Tupelo over Lewisburg. And
I got Tupelo over Lewisburg by a lot.
Again, I have Tupelo all the way into the state championship. I think they're just, in theory, on paper, they should fly through everyone.
Agreed. Horn Lake and Starkville?
Think
Give me the
it'll be
Jackets.
interesting.
Give me the Jackets.
I think I want to take Starkville as well, mainly because
Chris
Tupelo
Jones. Well, they want that Tupelo rematch.
Exactly. Which makes for a very interesting game because, like you said, Chris Jones gets these guys up when it matters most, and it matters most now.
Absolutely. That wraps up essentially what we're looking at for this week. And we've got about a little less than 5 minutes left. Let's go ahead and announce it. Game of the week. We are finally, and I mean finally, getting to go to New Albany to watch the Bulldogs, take on Itawamba Ag. These are two teams that I've been really high on throughout the year. I thought Itawamba could realistically win their division. They did not. Shannon took it. Now they find themselves playing New Albany here in the postseason. The New Albany team that has yet to lose a game.
It's hard to keep winning, though.
It is.
Especially at this time of the year. And Tanner, you and I got to see a little bit of that, at least the end of that Itawamba game against Choctaw Central last week. It was like 21-21 going into the fourth quarter. Itawamba pulled ahead, ended up winning, I think 42-21, just was too much for Choctaw Central. But yeah, these are two good teams, and this will be interesting come Friday.
Yeah. Cool story coming into this one for Itawamba. We found
Interesting.
a wild story here for Itawamba. Keyshawn Wilson, wide receiver or safety, plays both ways. He missed some time this year because of a really, really, really wild story. During one of the early practices this year, when the team was practicing in no pads due to the heat, he high-pointed a ball at safety, picked it off, and landed flat on his back really hard. Tried to shake it off, and the coach's staff held him out that day.
Good move, coach.
Good move, coach, because Wilson had actually lacerated his kidneys. I'd never heard that was possible until now. Had to spend some time in the hospital and in Le Bonheur. During that process, lost almost 25 pounds and came back this season, during this season, week 6 against Amory, and is now playing some really meaningful minutes for this Itawamba team.
Had 2 catches last week for 16 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, comes back and is...
He's playing. Like,
yes.
he's producing.
And we don't mean just playing as he's stepping onto the field.
No,
yes,
he's producing.
So just an insane story, a really great story. It's fitting that it's a great story, though, just because of how intriguing this matchup is.
It is that. I mean, and not just at the skill position. You look at some of the offensive linemen. Emmanuel Tucker for New Albany is getting a lot of D1 and high-level attention. 3-star player, 6'5". He's measured as tall as 6'7" on some sites, 290 pounds. I mean, there is some serious talent on this 4A field Friday night. I cannot wait.
Yeah, this will be, it feels like, especially when there's so much on the line, it feels like this will be one of the better matchups that we'll get this season. And I think we've got 2 really good matchups coming this week. Again, Itawamba and New Albany, where we'll be at, but again, the Choctaw County and Winona game. So if you're a football fan, get out to one of them.
Get out to one of them. Some of the best football in the state's being played this weekend.
Yes, this should be a great week. I mean, second round, you really start to get into the heat of things.
And we got a quarterback matchup here, dude.
Yes, we do.
I mean, a quarterback matchup. I'm excited, dude. I cannot wait.
We've been trying to see these 2 teams for 12 weeks now. We finally get there.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So, Albany, we're coming. We can't wait to see all the smiling faces. But that's about all the time we've got this week.
I'm taking New Albany.
Give me the dogs.
To continue undefeated.
Give me the dogs. That's our predictions and our picks this week. We'll catch you next week for more playoff updates here on the Magnolia Fields podcast from the Richard Schwartz and Associates studio. Tanner Marlar, Cody Blaszczak, signing off.